Welcome to the Prompt Environmental Decision Support System EDSS tutorial. This video will guide you through the platform's features, which includes spill simulation, risk assessment, and satellite detection tools. Let's begin. So to access the system, you need to understand that Prompt DSS is an open access emergency tool. So which means you don't need to log in. You don't need any credential to get in. All you have to do is to open a web browser and then you can access the system. That is step one. Step two, pilot site selection. Now you can see from the interface that you have 4 different pilot sites. Now for this video, we will choose Tripoli, Lebanon, which is a high traffic Eastern Mediterranean port. Tripoli. Now the system is loading and it will take you to the site of Tripoli. So the third step is the interface breakdown. Now you can see that the interface breakdown, it's divided into 3 components. And then the first one is the map viewer, which is here you can see this is the map viewer, which is on your right, which displays the geospatial data, example spill paths and risk zones. And then the menu bar, which is on the top here, you can see here, this is the menu bar, which portrays between operational simulation and risk assessment. Then you have the control panel, which is on the left here, where you can have your input parameters and adjust settings here. So to run the new simulation, you have to choose between oil and HNS. So for this example, we are going to use HNS. And now we have to define our location. First of all, the location could be manual, could be also automatic using here, this bar here. All you have to do is just have to click here. You try to locate it, give the incident of the spill. In this example, now we're going to do it like that. So you can see that the moment you enter here, you will see that you have the coordinate. And the coordinates are here now. If you know the specific location, you can enter it here. So now the other step you have to follow is define the substance. Now the substance here, for this example, we are going to use benzene, and we have also the volume. Now the volume, we can use 50. Now you have to be cautious because large volumes increase computation time. Now, and then you have the day. The day could be the specific day, the very day that you are running the simulation. For this example, we're going to use today. And then the time is given, and then you have the hours of duration, which is 12 hours, and then you have the cluster. For this example, we're going to use 24 cluster. The cluster defines the wind and the current conditions. Cluster 1 implies that calm seas, and cluster 5 implies storms. And then you have the water temperature, which is given. Then you have the air temperature. Then you have the result time, which you have to choose. Here in this case, we're going to use 30 minutes. And then after entering all the data, you need to hit run simulation. Now for the simulation, if you hit run simulation, you will see that for HNS spills, an atmospheric simulation will run automatically. In this case, we have to press yes. The simulation takes 1 to 2 minutes. So after running the simulation, you will have now the results. Now, so the next step we're going is to analyze the results. Now to analyze the results, you have this panel. You can see the mass balance panel. Now this chart shows how the spill evolves. Now when there is a spill, it evolves in different ways. And then you have the orange, which explains how the spill evaporates and lost to the air. And then you have the blue, which explains how the spill disperses and mix into the water. And you have the green, which is the residual, how the spill remains on the surface. And you can see it from the graph here. It is demonstrated the green, and then the blue, and then also the orange. Now it is also self-explanatory also here at the bottom of the panel. Now, the most important thing that you should understand as an authority is that if 50% of the spill evaporates quickly, which is they already evaporated into the air, the authorities will prioritize air quality monitoring at this point. Now, step 2 here, we are going to see the animation of the spill, how the spill spread over time. You can see from the particle tracker, so here, you can see here, shows the likely path of the spill. So you can adjust it to see the short term and the long term. The short term, which is from 0 to 6 hours, which implies immediate contamination of the zones. And then also you have the long term, which is 12 to 24 hours, threatening the coastline ski areas. So you can see here how the spill evolved and spread over time. So step 3 looks at the overlay surface concentration of the spill. So under the surface concentration, you can see that here it defines blue and red and in between the colors. So the blue implies that it is low and red implies that it is high. So the surface concentration here, the red zone indicates that more than 1000 parts per million contamination deploy appears here first. So you can click any cell here to know the exact value. So the next variable we will look at is the atmospheric concentration. We can be shown here as in blue. We show that how the spill spreads into the air, which is in blue. As you can see, blue implies low and then red implies high. So from here, authorities can make decision. So for the atmospheric concentration, we have one that is in kilogram or slash per meter cube, and then also we have ppm, which is the part per million. So you can choose either of them. So the results for both of them are basically the same. So after analyzing the results, now we can use new simulation to use the satellite detection, because one of the key innovative results for PROM is to also incorporate satellite detection for the spill oil. So here, using the satellite, we need to use oil, as you can see, and we have to define only the date. That's all, and then we press confirmation. So here we enter the date. Example, here we have 2025, first the year, and then we have the month, and then we have the day. Then we press confirm, and it's going to show you the result of the satellite detection. So after running the simulation using satellite detection, the system generates two distinct data layers for spill analysis. And you can see here it's oil and the probability. So the oil tells you exactly the place where the spill takes place, and here the probability tells you the probability of the spill layer. And here the oil spill probability layer displays the likelihood percentage, which is from 0 to 100. 0 means no probability, and 100 means there is one possibility of the presence of spill. And then you have the confirmed detection layer, which is the oil here. From 0 to 1, 0 means there is no oil, and 1 means there is oil, which is dangerous. And to optimize the visualization of the spill, you can use the opaque here, which could be adjusted from 0.5 to 0.6 to 0.8 and till 1. Now the key things to take into consideration for satellite detection output is that the probability values above 70% indicate high confidence detections, and the detection layer results should always be field verified. The layer combination provides comprehensive situational analysis. So now we are looking at the risk assessment variables, and to find out the risk assessment variable, we have to select the hazard, and then since we are dealing with HNS chemical, go there, and then we select the main port. In this example, we will use main port node, Then we select the substance. In this case, we will use the ethanol volumes. And then now we have the results here. So here we have the probability, and then we have the arrival time. Now, one thing to understand here, or one thing to note, is that the hazard map answers where the spill goes. And here you can see the probability, which is indicating in blue and also red and between colors. And then you have the arrival time. So in this result, you need to focus on two colors, the red and then the blue, as you can see here. Now the red implies that more than 80% contamination is at risk, while blue implies that less than 50% is at risk. So the other risk assessment variable is the vulnerability layers. So vulnerability here identify what is at risk. Now we have to sift there, as you can see. So the vulnerability, so we choose also HNS. So the vulnerability measures these parameters, which are the socioeconomic, which compose of fisheries, as you can see, fisheries and tourism. The human or physical, which compose of port infrastructure, as you can see here. And then you have the environment, which compose of coral reefs, which is the marine basically, and then the seabird colonies. Now this color you can see on the screen, it tells you what is at risk using the color. Very low is green, low is yellow, moderate is orange, red is high, and purple is very high. So based on these results, authorities will use them to carry out immediate action. So the third element we are going to look at is the integral or the combined risk analysis, which is the combination of both the hazard and the risk. So here you can see from the graph that the color shows where there is red, and there is orange, and which implies that red in this area is at high risk, while the orange is moderate, and then you have the green, which is very low. So authorities, based on these results, they have to concentrate on where the color is very high to make sure that immediate action are taking place. Like you can see here from the video that the color area, which is very high, requires action, and maybe this area doesn't, and also on the green part of it. So the meta ozone defines the current and the wind. As you can see here, the only thing you need to do is to choose the cluster, which defines cluster 1 as calm seas and cluster 5 as storms. So here you can see that cluster, if we choose, let's say cluster 24, it shows how the wind flows and also the current. And the color here you can see from 0 to 0.5, 0 means low current speed, and then 0.35 means high current speed. Also the wind, you can see the color here from 0 to 30, 0 mean low wind speed, and 30 mean high wind speed. In conclusion, as you can see, we have used Tripoli as a port for this tutorial. The same procedure also could be used for other ports like Specia, Aqaba, and Genoa. So PROM is just not a tool, it's a first responder. It helps to stimulate spills using real data, track contamination with particle models, and deploy resources based on risk maps. So based on the results, authorities can use it to deploy resources and make sure that they take immediate action for marine contamination. If you have any emergency during simulation, contact this email with your simulation ID. Thank you for your kind attention.